Another episode right here on Pub Sports Radio. It is Hot Topics. He's Jeff Nadeau. I'm Donnie Seymour. You know what we haven't talked about a lot, Jeff? It's a nice little appearance going to take place this weekend, and that's with NASCAR. We're gamblers. There's money to be made, but it's nice, Jeff. Open for business. NASCAR is on deck now.
Yeah, we get another sport back, Donnie.
Yeah.
And then again, the more individual sports are coming back. There's no need to continue to sit on the sidelines. But this race is going to be obviously a lot different than what we're used to. Obviously, on a Saturday or Sunday, NASCAR is generally tons of fans, a lot of fanfare. Donnie, NASCAR does a really good job with the fans. They involve the fans. They have all sorts of things before.
iRacing too, man, during the shutdown.
Sure.
Yep.
But at the race themselves, you have the infield. You have all the stuff before, the celebrities that come, the fanfare. It's a great thing to do, and it's a great thing that they've done with NASCAR where they're really kind of involving the fans and getting things involved. And NASCAR is such a big business at this point and has been for many years. The thing about Darlington, Donnie, where we are this week, there's some things that are interesting. Darlington, for one, is an odd track in the fact that most NASCAR locales are near big cities for the most part. Darlington is in a weird spot. It's in north central South Carolina. It's not really near any big cities. And for years, Darlington has struggled with attendance. But you look at this week's race. There's not going to be any practice or qualifying, Donnie, and they'll decipher pit stalls through random drawings and things like that. So it's basically going to be 10 to 15 minutes before the race. Driver comes out of their trailer, goes to their car, and drives. So it's going to be really interesting. And if you look at the odds, you don't see any odds really under 6-1 because they're not going to offer that big favorite where they're only 4-1 or 3.5-1. They're not going to offer that because there's so many unknowns with this race. You're basically getting in the car and driving. You don't know much about your car itself. You don't know the strong points of it, the surfaces. They haven't driven for 70 days, Donnie. You're kind of in a weird situation here. So you're going to want to look to back drivers that have solid pit crews. They haven't had any turnover, anything like that. And the veterans are going to be a look. I'm not betting a lot of young guns here. There's one young gun that I have my eye on. But yeah, it's going to be a weird race. There's no fans. There's no families. There's no anything. It's literally the crew chiefs, the pit crews, and the drivers.
Yeah, they were out in Phoenix, then they go to Atlanta. I remember when everything, took place because, Jeff, me and you both equated to basketball because March Madness was taking place, obviously, with the, ACC tournaments, the Big East tournaments were going on, and it shut down. And the one beacon of light that we had, Jeff, NASCAR was like, you know what, we're going to take the fans out. We're going to go ahead and we're going to move forward. And that eventually was struck down as well. So you're right. It's been a long layoff. And just looking over some of the notes here, Jimmie Johnson saying that, he's preparing for NASCAR's return with no practice whatsoever. So it is a good point that you bring up. Some of these guys have a lot of advanced race, knowledge on these different tracks, because if somebody's just tuning in for the first time and saying, hey, you know what, nothing's going on, I want to watch NASCAR. Jeff, I mean, not every racetrack is the same in NASCAR. So knowing those quirks and knowing how to get in and out of some of these, turns and breaks is key.
Exactly. And then that's why, NASCAR is an interesting beast because you're always looking, and that's the thing. You have different types of tracks. You have road courses. You have super speedways. You got all sorts of different things. So, there are drivers that are really good at certain tracks. You look at some of the road courses where there's turns and all sorts of, maneuverings. Certain drivers are really good there, and those drivers you don't really hear about the rest of the season. But obviously getting past how the race is going to start, the getting into things and understanding how the race is going to shake out. Obviously, you want to get into how you're going to bet the race. And, for me, I'm not going to invest a ton of money in this race. I'm just not. I want to see kind of how drivers get back to things here, how it kind of works. I want them to get a race under their belt. I will make some wagers. You look at one guy I have my eye on, Eric Jones. He's a guy, kind of a younger driver. But you look at his career, he's done a really nice job at Darlington. He actually won this race last year. He's had some really good success there in Darlington. It's just a race course that he's good at. You look at Donnie in 3 races in his career at Darlington, his average finish around, top 5. That's his average top 5. He's won once. He's finished in the top 5 twice. He's finished in the top 10 all 3 times. So this is a guy I think's going to be there. And in a race where we have a lot of, unknowns, he's going to be a pretty solid price to take a shot with, in the 15-1 range. A guy that, I think has the best chance to win this race. I'm gonna kind of avoid guys that have concerning pit crews or maybe drivers that haven't really raced well. Interestingly enough, Donnie, a guy a lot of people like is Martin Truex. Martin Truex hasn't had a good season up until this point. I think a lot of people looked at this break as maybe kind of a recalibration for Truex. He's been a great driver in years past. He's won this cup before. He's always been a good driver. He's a good story, South Jersey guy, a big Eagles fan. So he's a guy we like to root for here. I think that the break could be a real reawakening for Martin Truex. He's a great driver. And in 21 races here, I mean, he's finished in the top 5, just 2 times. So he doesn't really have a lot of great numbers here, but I think this could be an interesting reawakening. The driver that I really like, though, Denny Hamlin. I don't know if there's a guy that's done a better job at Darlington over the years than Denny Hamlin. You look at it in 14 races in his career, top 20, 13 times. Top 10, 11 times, and he's won here twice. He's going to be a driver up towards the top of my list that I have my eye on. I'm looking Denny Hamlin, Eric Jones. It's going to be a weird race, though. Obviously, there's so many unknowns in NASCAR to begin with. How you're driving a car, Donnie. I mean, anything can give out at any time. It's a little different than really anything. And your pit crews are so important with the speed and the precision. So you want to do your research and find out what drivers have maybe had a pit crew issue or something like that. If you want me to get into maybe drivers to avoid, I could do that as well. But yeah, it'll be a weird race for sure.
Yeah, favorites looks like here on the board, Jeff. FanDuel out of New Jersey, Kevin Harvick 5-1, Kyle Busch 5-1, and then Denny Hamlin at plus 750 just behind him. The interesting part about it is I'm happy that NASCAR is getting back and underway because it's under the similar ilk, Jeff, of PGA Tour. They should be able to get through this and play. NASCAR, you're in a car by yourself, and we've talked about it time and time again. All right, a pit guy gets quarantined. Okay, you can replace him very easily. Obviously, if the driver goes down, that'll be a hindrance, but this is one of the sports where there's not a lot of contact with the drivers. When we look at the NBA, Major League Baseball, and the NFL get going, there's a lot more logistics that you have to handle, but I think you can get a pretty clean event here in NASCAR.
Yeah, I think you definitely can. I mean, there's not a ton of people involved. You're not going to have, you're not having, you don't have any post-race stuff. You're not going to be shaking, hands and meeting the family and then, drinking a big can of milk after the game. They're not, or the race. They're not going to do any of that stuff. So, they're going to be able to kind of get it in, get it done. It's like a race, Donnie, where, you have weather affecting in 2 or 3 hours. Let's get it done. Let's get it done. Let's move on. But yeah, it'll be interesting. Like I said, avoid changes. So like a Joey Logano or Brad Keselowski, guys like that, I might want to avoid here just because they've had crew chief changes. There's some changes in the everyday kind of life, and maybe avoiding a guy like Martin Truex unless you believe that maybe the return's going to do him some justice. He struggled with a team move. And then one other guy that I think is always appetizing just because he's been driving for so long, and he has had some decent success here, Kurt Busch. There's something about Kurt Busch where he just never finds ways to win. He's one of those guys that just always does well, but he never has the ability to win a race. So for me, it's Denny Hamlin, it's Eric Jones. Those are the guys I'm going to take a shot with here in Darlington. I'll be interested to see. Hopefully he gets off without a hitch. We've noticed, Donnie, with the UFC, even with the NFL drafts and things like that, this stuff has went pretty well. It's been a welcome return, and I think a lot of people, particularly in the South and some of the Texas and places like that, I think they're going to welcome back NASCAR with open arms. And I think the betting numbers for this race, the viewing numbers for this race will be high. People will be excited for this. There's not much else on Sunday.
No, also, Jeff, before we get out of here, speak on some of the terms because I know a lot of people aren't familiar, even with myself. I mean, when you take a look at the NBA, we know what the standings are. When you take a look at the NHL and how they resume, are points going to stay the same? Are they going to elevate points for victories now? Or is everything just say, you know what, we shut off about, let's just say 2 months ago. Now we're going to get underway. Same point scoring system heading into the rest of the races.
Yeah, as far as I know, they're just going to keep going and doing what they're doing here. So, the point stuff, you look at Kevin Harvick. I mean, he leads the points breakdown right now. You get Joey Logano right there as well. And one of the reasons Chase Elliott's one of the big favorites in this race, he's had a good season so far. He's good. He's been third in the point standing. So, yeah, everything's going to kind of stay the same there. Really, the difference is going to be, just kind of the outer stuff. No fans, no real communication. NASCAR is kind of a brotherhood, Dottie. You have all the drivers kind of respect each other. There are some quarrels. I mean, you're not going to see any fights, put it that way. Occasionally you'll see a brawl because of someone doing something. But, mostly it's a brotherhood. People, kind of they interact. Like I said, there's a lot of fanfare. It's going to be kind of a weird thing. It's just going to kind of be something where let's get it done. let's get back to our trailers and let's move to the next week. And there's going to be a lot of races in a 2-3 week period. So that's something that you got to look out for as well. They've been off for a while, but the work's going to come fast and quick here.
No, it definitely takes a look at us obviously updating this weekend's race here at Darlington. And also see the 20th. They have another NASCAR race, it looks like, on the, NASCAR Cup Series there as well. Or excuse me, Martinsville, Darlington, yep. Charlotte. So nice back-to-back races there. And it should be able to go through all the summer. And again, people are looking to get back to business, get back open. I think NASCAR has a perfect opening in this one, Jeff. So before we shut it down here, give again who you're looking at as a long shot and maybe who your favorite in this race is.
Yeah, and I want to say this again, credit to NASCAR for doing this. I mean, there's a lot of leagues that are just scared, and that's the simple thing. They don't want to be the first to do it. UFC and NASCAR have taken a stance and said, look, we're going to do it. Again, they only have individual athletes, so it's a little different. But, as far as for me, I'm going to look Eric Jones. You can get him. Last time I saw, he was in like the 13-1 to 15-1 range. And then my favorite's going to be Denny Hamlin. I'm a big fan of him at this track. I mean, he has had massive – I mean, Donnie, in 14 races in his career, his average finish is 7.79. So, I mean, he's finishing top 8 on average. He's going to be there. He's a guy that I just really like in this spot. So I'm going to go Denny Hamlin, and I'm going to go Eric Jones.
There you go. Here to keeping it in touch with NASCAR, Jeff. Back on the docket here for Sunday. As always, every day we go over some hot topics here in the sports world.
And Donnie, good end to the week here. We got NASCAR tonight.
Yep.
I'm going to give you a little schooling on Bundesliga, which gets started on Saturday. Get some UFC over the week. You get some UFC tonight as well. I mean, sports are coming back, Donnie.
Jeff, the death capital of the world. Nobody wants to be Italy. You know who's announcing they're coming back? Serie A, Jeff.
Of course they are. Why wouldn't they? Yeah. Listen, Donnie, and I want to tell the listeners this. When Donnie reached out to me this morning, he said, what do you want a topic to be? And Donnie said, I want to do reopenings. I said, look, Donnie, I can't do another reopening. I need a break from reopening videos. But I will say this before we go. I thought we've got some really good news last night from the NBA. Yeah. It seems like the stars want to come back. It seems like they're getting there. It's really day by day, Donnie. Some days you see it, you feel great. The next day you feel like nothing's going to happen right. But I want to say this real quick, because this is my pulpit, Donnie, to the world. Shame on Dr. Anthony Fauci. Shame on him. Dr. Anthony Fauci, Donnie's not been right about anything.
By the way, the models guys out here, Jeff. I'm going to create a model to show you. Has any single one been right? The guy I actually used to rip on from day one, who I still think is a nudnik out there, but maybe Windhorst was the best, guy that said just shut it down right off the bat. I don't know, but some of these guys that are paid a lot of money to tell you the prediction. Woo-hoo.
Surprisingly, Donnie, I asked last night on my Periscope, during an hour Periscope, I asked one person to come forward and tell me one thing that Peter King has said that's been true about this.
Yeah.
Didn't find anybody, oddly enough. See you tomorrow, folks.
See ya.